Hello, I'm Tan the TamBoTC channel. So if anybody watching doesn't know, I'm doing Batman the Spider-Man month for this month. The reason I'm saying this now is because whenever I record through the PlayStation, I have an audience that watches my PlayStation stuff as well, so they're not gonna probably always know when I'm doing my PC stuff for this kind of thing. So know that I have a YouTube channel connected to these videos, or you can look it up, TamBoTC, capital T, lowercase a, lowercase m, capital B, lowercase o, capital T, and capital C. But nonetheless, I wanted to talk, excuse me, I wanted to talk about something, and it relates to a YouTube channel that I do like, by the way, and I'm not saying that, I'm not trying to be, negative Nancy or anything like that on this guy,
A remote-controlled batarang.
because I genuinely like the guy's channel, but there are times that I have, some, I don't know how to describe it. Not every YouTuber I have problems with, but sometimes I'll just run into a video, and I know it's on an older video, older topic. Oh, up there. Oh, crap. I always hate that this is in frickin'... I'll come back to this later. I'm glad it let me at least walk away from this for now. But, yeah, I did not like the takes on his Tim Burton video where he's ranking all the Tim Burton movies. Schaffrillas Productions. Of course, I'm not a very good movie reviewer. I kind of gave up on doing movie reviews. That's also not what my recent videos on The Dark Knight and Spider-Man and such movies. But I just got off of watching his Tim Burton movie out of, morbid curiosity, I guess. I hate his takes on the Beetlejuice movies as well as Batman 89. I do like Batman Returns better than Batman 89, though, the first Batman. I like how dark and twisted it is. There are some moments, though, that and I get the impressions he's only watched the movies once when doing his videos. Where I know it's not really a review, but when you're doing a ranking, I feel like you need to kind of watch it more than once. And I get the impression that not only does he like movies that have, even though he's talked about other movies where he likes when they have the slower pace, great character development moments, but I get the feeling he wants his movies to be more exciting and less, methodical. And I forgot I was in a mission. Hello, T-Rex. I have one of you in my Batcave. I hate his take on the Batman, and he even put Corpse Bride over Batman 89 and such, and I'm just like, no. Okay, first off, I love claymation films. Get that? You gotta remember that when I talk about this stuff. I understand. I do like Corpse Bride, but if I were to compare Corpse Bride on the scale of all the claymation films, it's definitely on the bottom of the list. It's not at the top for me. It's down there with even Frankenweenie, ironically enough as is. I just don't agree. Corpse Bride is a good film. It just holds no candle to the others, and it feels more like a substandard, not only claymation, but just a standard film. It's still a good film, and for a... Okay, yeah, I can't slide under that. But, yeah, it just is not... I do not see it as, being better than Batman 89 and Beetlejuice. He put Beetlejuice over Batman, over the first Beetlejuice, and said the Maitlands are boring. There's also things he just did not talk about in that review, by the way, at all. Why didn't he mention the other family? talk about the rest of the family in that movie. And of course, he came off seeing the musical, which I feel like that this screws with his perspective of the movie. And also, I have to ask, which came out first, the musical or the movie? You gotta ask yourself that. Because, yeah, they of course can fix things with the musical and add more. Like, of course, but I don't agree. I like the guy, I like Michael Keaton better as Beetlejuice. There's so many iconic lines from him, memorable lines. There's a lot of comedy from him. And I mean, also, frickin' I think even the Maitlands have good comedy, but here's the thing, and I don't know why he didn't think about this when talking about the film. The Maitlands are meant to balance out the craziness of the rest of the film, both in the style and in the characters themselves around them, because there's so many crazy, wacky characters in the movie. You kind of need this. It's kind of like having the straight guy or the straight person to your more bombastic character. That's what the rest of the movie is. It is that more bombastic, ridiculous character, and then they're the equivalent of the straight guy. So you kind of need them to balance that out and to play off of and to be the clueless people seeing all this crazy stuff go on and how they react to it. So I don't agree with him on that. He mentioned how Willem Dafoe is the reason that is one of the reasons, at least, that Beetlejuice, other than the fact that it focuses on the characters he wants it to. Even though, ironically, I think Beetlejuice actually has the same amount of screen time as he does in the original. So that's weird of him to say. I actually find the Maitlands better because there's also characters I did not like in Beetlejuice, like her daughter, um, which is weird because she's good as Wednesday, but she was just kind of boring as that. And there's also the love interest of her I don't care for. He's annoying. And just forgettable. There's also some references to like modern day that are a little dated that I'm not a fan of, though I do appreciate Beetlejuice sucking people into their phones to get kind of makes me feel as a way of getting back at, because I hated that scene, by the way, where everybody's freaking, of course, everybody pulls out their goddamn phones to start taking pictures and recording and stuff. Like, that was cringy, but I do appreciate that freaking Beetlejuice immediately after that was like, oh, so you're gonna do that? Hey, well, here's the boomer saying to the zoomer, let's suck you into your own phones and see how you like it. I do like that he does that to them. That's not something he says, by the way, but that's what I feel like he would have said to them. But there's just Zoomer jokes in it I just did not like. And Willem Dafoe is barely in it. And by the way, here's another thing to think about. Where there are iconic and memorable lines from the original Beetlejuice, even jokes, I can't think of a damn thing Willem Dafoe said that I would reference from that movie. I can't think of a goddamn thing. Is he better now? Is he the better choice now, Schaffrillas? I don't remember a damn thing he says in that goddamn movie. I do like Beetlejuice. I thought it was a lot better than I was expecting. A matter of fact, I have a frickin' sandworm popcorn bucket. I got a bunch of other things when I went to the Beetlejuice movie. They had these little tins that had, the mint candies in them, and it's the Beetlejuice with the leaning on the tombstone tin. I really like that. I actually displayed it. I also have a Funko Pop too. And they had those really good, like, Fanta drinks that was used to advertise that movie that I thought were so delicious. And I wish they had that around again. That was so good. It was like some sour green apple soda. But I'm trying not to drink as much soda. I just thought that was a really good flavored soda. But yeah, I just don't agree with his takes on that stuff. Like, he missed a lot of things. I think there's some great humor too coming from the Maitlands. I love the book of the recently deceased. I love that they have those moments. But once again, they're meant to be the straight people balancing out the more crazy stuff. So, yeah, I just don't like that freaking take. That is just so stupid. Once again, Willem Dafoe is great, but he's barely in that freaking film also. And I don't remember a damn thing he says in it. He doesn't nearly stand out as much as Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice. Alright, let's get into the Batman part next. Also, you know what? I should briefly mention this. He must have made this video when the Amber Heard stuff was going on, because he's just talking all sorts of despising Johnny Depp, as if he's choosing Amber Heard's side. Gee, that video ages well. No, I still stuck by Johnny Depp even when that stuff was first happening, because I never got the vibes from him that he was what Amber Heard was saying he was. And when the whole lawsuit and everything was going down, it made it much more obvious who was at fault, and it was definitely Amber Heard. It was just another Toby Turner situation gone wrong. By the way, there were people saying that the guy who plays Kang, I can't remember that actor's name, was also having a situation like that. But here's the thing about him. I don't agree. I don't agree that he has the same situation. He does not give me good vibes, as well as the people he makes friends with or does stuff with. Like, he was on Critical Drinkers freaking interview or whatever the frick. He had Ben Shapiro in one of his freaking movies or whatever. Yeah, I don't think he's a very good judge of character, and I more likely believe he probably did do the terrible things he did than Johnny Depp. So you gotta choose your battles with which side you go for. And even so, if that's the case, to learn from today nowadays, even when I didn't put much like hate into Johnny Depp at that time, I think you need to hold off for judgment until everything blows over. Everybody always jumps to conclusions afterwards, and it's just freaking ridiculous. I go off of the judge of character, or the motivations of the person, or the aftermath, what it all amounts to in the end. And yeah, I don't think that the guy who plays Kang sounds like a very good person, and still doesn't. And Johnny Depp is not as at fault as people allow it think. I also don't agree with his take on. There are times where the Alice in Wonderland, he does nail some opinions, but I do think that, like, while there are some really gray, ugly areas and overuse of CGI in the Alice in Wonderland, I did like the looks of some of the designs themselves. I like the look of the freaking the Cheshire Cat. Kind of wish he wasn't CGI, but he does look cool. I like his design. I just wish he wasn't an ugly CGI abomination. So I don't think the entire movie is like an ugly style. I think there are some styles to it that can work, and I actually kind of like Johnny Depp's look for the Mad Hatter. But yeah, he does nail everything else with that movie pretty much. I think here's another thing is where it feels like he only watched the movie once and wasn't nearly as observant with them. Nostalgia Critic, a lot of the time he does watch the movies more than once. Sometimes there are times where I get that he's only watched it once, but there are definitely times where he's watched them more than once, because he'll do those first watching videos where he's jotting down notes and stuff. But he also talks about how he'll have to watch the movies again for the actual review itself. So yeah, there's some things to get from that, and I think that's what makes him a better candidate and reviewer for that kind of stuff than Schaffrillas. And finally, the other thing with his take on Michael Keaton being a bad Batman. In his video, He did not talk much about him as Batman, though. The only thing I remember him really mentioning much was that he didn't like the way he turns and stuff, even though the purpose behind that was that he was otherworldly feeling. But yeah, it is goofy, but I don't mind it. It doesn't take me out of it. I feel like he's really looking too deep into that because that does, like, it kind of feels like somebody. It's weird how to put this, because other times it feels like he's not observant at all, or he's very little in his observance, or he overanalyzes things. He's like a mixture of two at times, and I felt like he was overanalyzing things when it came to the Batman turning his neck. And the next problem I have is him talking about him as Bruce Wayne. I will say that he's not my favorite Bruce Wayne, because he feels like he's Batman even when he's Bruce Wayne, because he's more into the detective side of trying to figure out who Jack Napier is to him, as well as figure things out in his life. Like, Alfred brings up some things about him not, like, Alfred wants to see him with someone like Vicky Vale. And a lot of the time, he talked about how he feels clueless to him. I don't agree with that. You know how people have talked about how Ian McCallum acts with his eyes in, like, the Lord of the Rings films? I think that a lot of the expressions and the looks that Michael Keaton gives in a lot of scenes tell a greater story than what he could do with just him talking. And he's got plenty of scenes where he's talking too, but there are a lot of scenes where you can see the expression on his face. One of my favorite examples is when yes, after sex. With Vicky Vale, he has an expression on his face that just says it all. There's also the expression he gives Jack Nicholson's character, Jack Napier, when he's like, nice outfit. And you see, like, Nostalgia Critic brought this up too, where he's like, you can tell what these characters are all about just from the two expressions on their faces. So there's a lot going on just with, like, the looks they give. And there's a look you can tell when he's, like, in bed, you know, holding Vicky Vale. This is weird to describe. But you can see the expression in his face and everything that it says, that, like, he looks at this and he's like, you kind of see, like, he would love to live like a normal life with somebody, have somebody that he can share that life with. But at the same time, he's like, how would I get away from my duty and what I'm dedicated to as Batman? I still think there are great moments with him just from the looks on his face that he can give. And I feel like Schaffrillas really overlooked that kind of stuff. And it pisses me off. And that's why I don't like his Tim Burton looks. His points of view. There are good things. I would not have put Edward Scissorhands over here's my thing. Edward Scissorhands is awesome. I love that freaking film. When I think of Tim Burton, though, and I think of his style, I think more Beetlejuice and Batman Returns. That's where I feel like his style really got to flesh out and was at its best, in my opinion. Even though Batman Returns wasn't really, like, received that well back in the day because you couldn't have your McDonald's toys, I still really thought that the style nailed it there for the Tim Burton look, where in Batman 89, I still love the look of that film, but I didn't feel like it was there yet. It wasn't quite there yet. It was a little bit more experimental, or just the first stepping stones of the Tim Burton look, where Batman Returns and Beetlejuice were him going all out there. He is Tim Burton fleshed out there. Where stuff like Alice in Wonderland were just really flawed. He lost his way, kind of. Tim Burton losing his way in his own style. Or not, once again, kind of losing it. I do think Beetlejuice with practical effects and getting back that style was great, and hence why I think that should kind of be up there as one of his better films. And it's the fact that it's so surprising it's not as horrible as I thought it was going to be, because I really did not want another Beetlejuice movie. It just feels completely unnecessary, but I'm kind of glad we got it. But I do think there are problems with it that even he overlooked. Hell, there are problems he overlooked even in his positive points on Batman 89 and his positive points on Batman Returns. For example, the stuff with the Penguin, and this is stuff that Nostalgia Critic points out, but the stuff with the Penguin feels like there were things missing from the motivations of the Penguin. And I feel like he's more like Killer Croc than he was the Penguin, weirdly enough. Also, he has Joker kind of goons, like clowns, which is a little weird. But yeah, it does play into the part that he's from amusement park, which was also something Killer Croc related. Now that I think about it, because Killer Croc was a amusement park attraction at one point. He worked at an amusement park as a wrestler or whatever, a half man, half reptile wrestler, and yeah, it really does feel like, now that I think about it, that they took a lot of inspiration more so from Killer Croc than they did the Penguin himself. So that's something he missed. I also get the vibes that he doesn't really know Batman all that well, too, from comic book wise at least. So that's another vibe I'm getting from him. Maybe I'm not reading everything right, but it's weird. There are times where he nails it, and then other times where it's like, you missed a frickin' mark, man. You missed a frickin' mark. But yeah, I'm just not a fan of his Tim Burton take. Can I get that with this? Damn it. Yeah, of course. Oh, I'm trying to remember what I do here. But, oh. Okay. But yeah, like, that, I think that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about with that. But yeah, I don't know, after watching that, and I know it's an old-ass video, but it gives me something to talk about, and I wanted to talk about it. I know, it's old. It's probably pathetic and stupid that I'm even talking about it, but it gives me something to talk about. Once again, keep in mind, I still love the guy. I think he's awesome. He makes some great videos, he makes some great points. Even in that video, I love some of his points. But those are the ones that really irked me, if anything. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention, actually, the Joker. Even though he loved the Joker, I have problems with that Joker. I do love him too. I think Jack Nicholson's great, and there's a reason he was picked for the Joker. But I will say that I don't like that he was given a backstory, that he has a name and identity. I also don't like that he's the killer of Bruce Wayne's parents. I'm just not a fan of that. That was just kind of stupid to me. It just gave him too much of a connection, and it felt like the weirdly, I talked about this too in my Spider-Man trilogy video, where Thomas Hayden's Church's Sandman and Spider-Man 3 felt like they just borrowed the same plot that the Joker did in Batman 89 for that. So I'm just not a fan of that, when they have to have the villain be the killer of the parents. It can't just be a random dude off the street or something. Man, the first Spider-Man, Spider-Man going after his parents' killer is really similar to the Joe Chill thing. But yeah. Actually, no, it's not similar. That's more of the movie, isn't it? And Joe Chill isn't even involved. Unless he was one of the thugs working with frickin' Jack Napier. But yeah, I just never liked that, and he really loved him, and that's kind of what gave me an idea that he didn't really know the Batman comics that well. The fact that uh, he didn't even mention much about him having an identity and everything, even though the Joker should mostly be mysterious. I'm wondering if he's even watched the Dark Knight movies as of the time of that video. He maybe have seen them now, but yeah. Uh, I'm just kind of baffled by some of his takes in that, and I know he's probably got the point of view of a Zoomer, so that's why I don't know how, like, if he is considered a Zoomer or not, but I'm kind of getting that vibe from it a little bit. With the points on that, just sounds like points I'd hear Zoomers say. I'm a millennial that likes Boomer stuff, and there is Zoomer stuff too. But I grew up with my grandmother, and she showed me a lot of her favorite stuff. How my mom showed me a lot of her favorite kind of stuff, and I got into even black and white movies and such. So I'm into whatever I can get into, old or new. And while I lean more towards the old, that doesn't mean I can't appreciate the new. Or there's stuff that I hate of the old even sometimes, or I have criticisms of. I mean, I love Batman '89, but I have criticisms of it that some people of uh, that generation would not probably agree with. But hey, we all have different opinions, and I know it's Schaffrillas' opinions too, and to respect that. But it gives me something to talk about, as well as it honestly is kind of overlooked opinions, though, because he did overlook quite a few things when talking about that stuff. And I know it's not a review, it's a ranking, but I feel like it needs to be handled just as delicately when you're doing a ranking like that. And you're somebody who's way more professional into making your videos than I am, especially since I don't really have the budget of someone like him, especially. So there's two things to think about. But just the fact that I could point that stuff out, and I don't have his budget or really that great at doing reviews myself, and yet I could point that stuff out. I think that's something that's interesting to think about nonetheless. But you let me know what you think. That's pretty much it. I will see you next time. I hope you have an awesome day. If you did enjoy or find something interesting from what I said, like, share, and subscribe. Leave your comments below, and I will see you next time. I am the Knight. I am vengeance. I am Batman.